Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk a little bit about restoring value to higher education. So one of the things that has happened relatively recently is that education has come under fire. So there was a time when getting a college degree was the only way to success. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. But now maybe getting a college degree is instead a presumption, right, that you will go. But what's the real value of it? If the degree doesn't get you something inherently, then how do we prove that there's value in higher education? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can return to some of the traditional values of higher education. Let me stop and give you a little bit of context to tell you where I am with higher education. So I'm at Waynesburg University. It is intentionally small, it's deliberately Christian, and it's just south of Pittsburgh. It's a liberal arts institution, and we're very science-based for the liberal arts. Some schools focus more on humanities. We focus really heavily on science. And we are trying to deliver that traditional liberal arts education. But how do we prove that that still has value today? Well, one of the most valuable things about it is that it is the place for the exchange of ideas. It's the place where big ideas happen. It's the place where innovation happens, and it's a place where leaders can be born. Well, how do you grow leaders? We're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you some ideas where if you're a high school student and you're looking for a college, or you're a college student today, I'll give you some ideas about what you can do to turn yourself into a leader. We have from Waynesburg University here today some Stover scholars. They're scholars who study constitutional studies and moral leadership. We have leadership scholars here today. And these are people that are trying to put those leadership skills to practice every day. So, how do we do it? Well, we start by not just focusing on the basics of education. So a lot of people think about education and they think I'm going to go to college and people are going to take this knowledge and they're going to put it in my head. I'm going to walk into a classroom, I'm going to sit down, there are going to be professors in front of me, and those professors in front of me are going to give me knowledge and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in my head. But that shouldn't be all that college is about. College should be the place where you really develop your character. Not a cookie-cutter character, not the character somebody else wants you to be, but what you want to be, the best, most actualized version of yourself, the you that you dream about when you daydream, right? The one you want people to know. Well, college ought to be a place that helps you achieve that. It ought to be truly transformational education. It ought to be the place that when you leave 4 years later, you say to yourself, I am different in a good way. I have become what I wanted to be. Well, we do that by modeling to each other what that looks like. We get feedback all the time in the classroom. We throw our ideas out there. We hear what people have to say about them. It's an opportunity to innovate, to test ideas. There are a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you get the most out of your education that you might not think about doing when you think about going to college, and one is serving. There is value in service. But I'm here to tell you that there are two different kinds of service. There's what we call at Waynesburg University hammer and nail service. So this is, I'm on the ladder, I have the hammer in my hand, and I am building a house for Habitat for Humanity. Or I am in the soup kitchen, and I am serving meals to people who need them. And this is great service. It meets lots of needs, and it helps a lot of people. But I would suggest to you that there is a second kind of service that is as valuable, if not more valuable, to you in becoming the person you want to be. And that service is the service where you use the skills that are unique to you. So if you can take your vocational skills, take what you're learning to become, to be, and you can use those skills that not everybody has, two things will happen. One, people will get skills they can't get from just anybody. And two, you will learn. You'll learn by doing. It's a different way to hone your vocational skills. It's a different way to learn. And you will make yourself into a lifelong servant and into a servant leader. Maybe you will be a person who, when you are 50, 60, 70 years old, is on a ladder, hammering nails, helping Habitat for Humanity. But one thing is for sure, you can always take the skill that you get through your education and employ it, regardless of your age, to serve people. And trust me, there are people who need it. So, serving. The second is by working, right? We learn by working. At Waynesburg University, we encourage people to do a lot of internships, externships, get out there in the real world. Why? Why? Because you learn what the world is like. You learn what the industry is like. You learn what it's like to be in the workplace, to get up, go to work in that industry, to connect with people. It does two things. It creates connections, and it opens doorways. So the connections it creates are your connections with people. You meet people who might be your future bosses, who might be the people that when you spin off your company and strike out as an engineer, are the people that can help you, that can support you. And it opens doors. It opens two kinds of doors. One, it opens doors within your industry or career. And second, it opens the door to the world. Right? It lets you get out there. It lets you travel. It lets you learn. It lets you see things that you can't learn in a classroom. And it gives you the context to take this stuff that you put in your head at a university and to apply it, to synthesize it, to figure out what it really means to you. What's its real value? Ladies and gentlemen, if you only remember one thing I say today, remember this. Your career starts now. It starts now. One of the things that people sometimes laugh about that is on my syllabus for the courses I teach is that you may not wear your pajama pants to class. Right? Now, this should seem pretty basic. But people do. People do this. They show up to class in their pajama pants. And so I put in my syllabus as my last toehold on Western civilization a few years back. I'm still hanging on. That you may not wear your pajama pants to class. Now, why do I care? Right? You should be able to learn in anything. You can come in your underwear and learn, right? How you look impacts your attitude. How you come, how you think, how you prepare impacts your attitude. Your career might not have started now. It might have started a while back. It may have started without you. But guess what? There might be somebody else who started theirs a while back. Right? Don't get behind. Start now. Cultivate the kind of practices as a student that you will have as an employee or as an entrepreneur. Don't think about your education, whether it be your high school education or your collegiate education, as this box, this 4-year or however many years you need to get it done, box, where you're going to start and then you're going to finish, and then when you're done, you're going to start your career. It's a blending. This is, your life has already started. It's not going to start when you're done with school. So you have to start preparing now. What's that get you in the end? Well, if you are the most prepared, it gets you upward economic mobility. It gets you the better than my parents did. Right? That's what all your parents want. The people who love you in your life, that's what they want for you. They want you to do better than they did. That's the goal. Right? It gets you the win. If you have an industry where you have to take a licensure exam or a certification exam, it gets you the passage. If you're focused all the time on how what you do applies in your industry, you will be the one that passes the certification exam. And incidentally, if you're looking for a college or a university, you ought to challenge them. You ought to ask, what is the passage rate? Right? We at Waynesburg University, we have 100% passage rate on the NCLEX 7 years running. That's the nursing licensure exam. The national average is 80%. When you're trying to choose a school, a college, or a university, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the place where you get 8% chance of passing? Or do you want to go to a place where you have 100% chance of passing? You need to ask these questions. Ask the questions about whatever your field is, right? What's your chance of getting a job? What opportunities do they have? You are the consumer of education. You get to challenge and test us. We need to be ready for you. We need to be ready to answer every question you have with a good answer. Because we should be creating a world of Renaissance people. People who are well-rounded. Right? People who people want to hire. How do you get the job? You get the job by being the one everyone wants to hire. How do you, right? It's pretty simple. How do you be the one everybody wants to hire? You be different. Be different than everyone else. Be the one that at the end of the day of interviews, everyone is still talking about. And you have to do that by not just focusing on the classroom, but by being well-rounded. By focusing your whole life now. Right? This will help you get a job. It will help you pay your bills, including pay back your student loans, which is something you should think about. Right? We have, you never think you get up in front of an audience and tell your bad statistics, but sometimes your bad statistics are your good statistics. So we have a 4% federal student loan default rate at Waynesburg University. 4% of our students don't pay their federal student loans back on time. But the national average is 14%. So our bad news is our good news. Now, here is, and we're working on that 4%, but let me give you another statistic. Our career path rate, which means 6 months after graduation, 96% of our students are on their career path. That means they're either in graduate school where they want to be in graduate school, or they're working. The fact that those numbers add up to 100 is probably not a coincidence. Right? These are the things that you should expect. You should expect that if you're going to pay an institution of higher education, that we will deliver value to you by delivering to you a career, a life that will let you pay back your student loans. This is a pretty small thing to ask in exchange for all the money you are going to pay to an institution of higher education. Right? It is how we restore value to the industry. We prove ourselves. So, what then is the value of all this? It's those test results. It's that career path rate. But most of all, it's better people. You should ask, in addition to all those metrics, push them on the metrics. Push every college or university on the metrics. And they ought to be able to take it. We ought to stand prepared to answer that challenge. But ask another question. Ask, why will I be a better person if I come here than if I go somewhere else? And I'm here to tell you that if you are at a college or university that does not have an answer to that question, then you are in the wrong place. Because they ought to be concerned about the whole you. So there are challenges to higher education, and there are solutions, and it's not as hard as everybody makes it. So what are the challenges, some of which we've talked about? Well, first of all is a lot of higher education is pushed right now to run more like a business, right? Run lean. We have a lot of business people at Waynesburg. You heard in my introduction that in a former life, I will admit I was a lawyer. And then I got my PhD in geography and I moved into higher ed. But that helps me every day because we do run the university as a business, and universities do have to be financially responsible with your money. We need to make decisions like we have to sit across the desk from your parents or from you if you're paying for your own education and explain to you why we spent that dollar. Right? We owe that to you, that you are getting value for the dollars you're paying to us. How do we deal with this proliferation of higher education, of the online offerings, of the for-profits that enter the market, of unaccredited providers? How do we deal with it? Well, we embrace the challenge. And we prove to you that there is value in higher education. We prove it to you by being transformative, by allowing you an opportunity to change, to be the best version of yourself. There's a lot of talk right now about government regulation of higher education. Should people be allowed to continue to self-regulate? Should the Department of Education step in and regulate? If higher education is doing their job correctly, we should not be worried about that challenge. It doesn't matter who regulates you if you are delivering value. At Waynesburg University, we try to say in our senior staff, the executive team, that we are a little better every day. That's the goal. Just be a little better every day. You should have that same goal for yourself. If you are a little better today than you were yesterday, just a little better, then you are on the right path. That's how we restore value, and that's how you bring value to your own life. So my challenge to you is to think each day, how can I be just a little better every day? Thank you.